Offset said that this album is going to be one of his most personal albums to date. And for once, a rapper actually delivered on his promise. This album has a lot to do with accountability, has grief. He even talks about growth on here. Across 18 tracks, he gives us some of the most personal things I've ever heard him say. This might be his best solo attempt out of all of them.
The STEM Society.
Welcome back to the STEM Society. My name is Cole Jackson. This is your weekly album check-in. Thank you for joining me. It's middle of the week. I hope you guys have had a pretty good week so far. Let's go into the weekend with a lot more energy than we had earlier. This week I'm going to talk about Kiari, Offset's newest album. He made this a very personal album. This doesn't feel like another luxury rap tape. This is more of Offset looking into a mirror. And I really enjoyed it. I think that's pretty dope that he did this. This is his third solo album. And to me, I think this gets a whole lot more personal than some of the other ones that we've listened to. Kiari is 18 tracks, 52 minutes long. From the start, this feels like his most complete solo project to date. So one of the biggest surprises of this album for me was it's not as turnt as I thought it was going to be. Like, I was looking for something with a lot of energy. I was looking for him to give us a lot more stuff like Bodies. Offset actually took the calm, cool approach, and it's very balanced. He brought a little bit of that laid-back energy from Gunna's album, and I think it made perfect sense. This is still Atlanta. He still has a lot of Atlanta-type vibes going on when you think about some of the themes that he talks about. He does have quite a few songs that are on here that gives us a little bit more energy, but he is really more about his growth than he is about flexing. Offset decided to balance moods throughout the whole album. Prada Myself is my favorite song on the album. And I like it because it's up-tempo, it's still him being very reflective, and the feature works. Teezo Touchdown has a great soulful hook on here, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of this album. I look at how he sat up here and just gave us a rundown of the things he's accomplished and how he should celebrate himself more. And I like that about that. I didn't think I was going to get that from an Offset album. Like, who seen Offset getting a little bit deep on one of his albums? Not me. I didn't see that on my bingo card. But that's one of the biggest reasons why it's one of my favorite songs, because he just came out of left field with that. The energy spikes when he goes into songs like Bodies, which I think is the centerpiece of the album. For me, Bodies was what I thought the whole album was going to sound like, and he completely changed it on it. That was a smart move to make Bodies his first single, and it was also a smart move to have Jid on there. Jid is my favorite feature on the album still. He had a lot of great features on here, but Jid's verse on Bodies, my favorite verse of the year so far. Another thing about Bodies that I enjoy is Offset actually elevating his rapping to kind of stay with Jid. Jid is on a high right now. Jid has been out here out rapping a lot of people, and I like the fact that we get a lot more technical rapping from Offset on this song, and him trying to hang with Jid even though he can't. He did a pretty damn good job, and that's another reason why the Body song is another one of my favorites on here. Checkmate is another high point on this album as well. Heavy bass, strings, the tempo was a bit slower, but Offset's flow on here is flawless. Like, he rode the beat like it was nobody's tomorrow. Pause if I have to. I think Offset's flow and the pockets that he got on that song alone elevated the song again. Like, I never heard Offset rhyme like this before, and he was getting in his bag on this one. And I like the fact that he did that. I'm so used to the three-man weave between him, Takeoff, and Quavo that when I do hear him solo, it just feels weird. This was the first solo album that Offset put out that just didn't feel strange or didn't feel out of whack. And I think that's because the Migos haven't been a group in a long time. But I really enjoyed the different bags that Offset got on this album. One standout that I enjoyed was the Love You Down flip that he did from Ready for the World. I thought that he paired like the trap drums with that song, that old school song. Made a lot of sense, felt real good. It just didn't miss for me. This song was obviously for the women. When he was talking about locking in with the woman that he's dealing with right now, I thought that was dope. Feels very intimate. It's different from the flex energy that we usually get. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I'm finally glad that we got an album from an Atlanta artist that ain't about the money, or it's not about the the islands or anything like that. I'm talking about You Gonna. This had a lot more depth to it than a lot of these other albums that I've heard from niggas out of Atlanta this year. The song that people were looking for, or I guess more trying to talk about on the timeline the most, was Move On, where he addresses the relationship he had with Cardi B. This is the very last song on the album, which I think was very smart. People was looking for the tea on this album, bro. People was looking for him to diss his ex-wife, and he didn't make that the theme of the album, and I like that. He takes accountability. He does say that, the things that he wanted out of this marriage he didn't get. She didn't cook, she didn't clean, none of that shit. You cheated on me, you got to get back. It's 50-2. Instead of him going at her heavy, which he could have done, he could have tore her apart, just like she might tear him apart on her album. He took his accountability, and he told what his part was, and he told what her part was, and he left it at that. And I think that's very classy. He didn't have to get into too much stuff, even though throughout the whole album you do hear about him dealing with a lot of different young women in his life right now, and the type of shit that he's been doing with women who he fuck with. So the song that people were looking for, or the theme that people were looking for the most, ended up being something that was a throwaway. And if you listen to this album just to try to find out the tea between him and Cardi B, bruh, you missing the whole point of the album. And I like the fact that we just didn't have to hear him going back and forth about it the whole time. So I have to applaud Offset again, because that was a smart move. One song, you only get one song, a little bit of my attention. I show you my accountability, and I'll talk about the stuff that I didn't like about you, and we done with it. Great job, Offset. That was perfect. One of the issues I've been having with a lot of the albums I've been reviewing here recently is the features overshadowing the main artist. That didn't happen on here. I think the only person who actually outdid Offset on this album was Jid. Jid was just, his verse was too great. He's one of the rappers of the year this year. It's understandable that he put up the type of numbers he put up on that song. But when you think about Teezo Touchdown, I think he was a real good addition to the album as well. I think Young Boy's verse on here was okay. Could have been better. It feels like Young Boy's kind of like cooling off, man. Like he ain't got the energy like he used to. I think YFN Lucci, his feature on here was solid trap energy. It was cool. Key Glock was really one that was very forgettable. I don't know what's going on with Key Glock right now. He was supposed to have one of the best 2025s, and he's been very lackluster throughout the year. This is another feature he's done where I haven't been impressed, and I'm like, Key Glock, you got to step your game up, bro. You got to step your game up. But I think Offset chose very wisely on the features he decided to put on this album. He didn't chase superstar names. He actually picked people who were going to serve the purpose of the album. And that's what I love the most about this too. The features never outshine the main person on here. Very smart, very, very good. Offset, you did another wonderful job on that end. Towards the middle of the album, it drags just a little bit. There's a few tracks that kind of blur together, and it gets to a point where it does feel like he talks about, it seems like 2 or 3 of the songs in that middle part talk about the same thing, AP watches or traveling or women or whatever the case may be, which doesn't bother me as much as it did on the Gunna album. Another part of this is Offset's not the most technical rapper, which I understand. I was a Migos fan. I know he ain't finna go bar for bar with niggas like Nas. I think Offset thrives more on cadence than he does wordplay, and that's okay. Coming from his era and coming from the Migos side of things, that just makes a whole lot more sense. And it was just something that he's used to. Didn't kill the album for me. If anything, it was to be expected from Offset. He did step up his lyricism a lot more on here, but I think if he would have gave me a few more punchlines and a few more entendres on here, I would have been through the roof about this album. So I can only compare Offset to his last 2 albums. And if I'm being real with you, the last 2 albums that he dropped were more of him trying to separate himself from the Migos and try to establish him being a good solo artist. Whereas this album is more personal. This is him really getting in his feelings and letting us know, like, hey, the Migos are gone. I'm going to be doing this solo thing for a little while longer, and I want you guys to accept me. And I'm not mad at that. I think he did a very great job in a year where we've had wonderful albums. I gotta most definitely put him in there too because this album was really, really good. Kiari has intentional themes, personal moments, and some of Offset's best solo work yet. The features support the project without overshadowing him, and the production offers a nice balance between up-tempo, chaos, and smooth reflections. But overall, this is easily his best solo album ever. So I have to give him a solid drop. This isn't Offset's flashiest album with him flexing. This is more of a real album. This is him giving a lot of himself to us. Personal albums can be a hit or miss thing, depending on who the artist is. I know a lot of people rush to this album to get the tea and be like, oh, he gonna dog Cardi out. And honestly, he just took accountability, he showed his growth, and he really showed how he can make it as a solo artist. I think this album debuted at number 17 on the charts. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it somewhere on here. But I think he actually put out a great body of work, and we should be applauding him. Outside of people looking for the tea, we should be giving this man a lot of credit for giving us something that was personal, intentional, and just and the production was amazing. So if you haven't listened to Kiari yet, go out and listen to it. It's on streaming services right now. I would advise you to even buy it because I don't know if we're going to get another personal album or another something as good as this from Offset again. That's all I got for y'all this week. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Make sure you guys do all of the things, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you guys join me on Sunday when I get you guys caught up with all the hip hop news from this past week. Take care of yourself. I love you. Peace out.
Thank you for joining the STEM Society.